And Joe, the Pennsylvania, of course, could be quite a battleground.
Well, I've said it before. As Tim Russert said in 2000, it was about Florida, Florida, Florida. This year, it's going to, or 2020, it's going to be Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania. And one of the, I think, most important things that Joe Biden brings to the table is the fact that he would win, and he is winning now in polls, the Scranton media market. It's a market that Donald Trump won by double digits. That changes the whole dynamic. And you know, Chris, people, when they look back at 2016, they overlook the fact that Hillary Clinton took what she needed out of Philadelphia, about 400,000 plus votes. She, but Pennsylvania was like Florida. She just got absolutely wiped out in the rural areas, and also in Scranton. That's what Joe Biden brings to the table.
You know what hit me yesterday? First of all, was Joe Biden, Dr. Biden, was spectacular. I guess it was Nita Dunn, did a produced piece, a tape piece, was maybe the best piece I've ever seen in politics. It was patriotic. It was beautiful. Her love of her country, her belief in her husband and what he can do for this country, the patriotic spirit. Biden is basically running for America against Trump. He's trying to rescue us from Trumpism and Trump himself. It was very powerful. I don't know if it'll go all the way through to Milwaukee at the convention. I don't know. I'd say, you know, it's 50-50, all this business. There's always a front runner. There's always a main challenger. But his emotion is patriotic. It's not anger. Unfortunately for him, a lot of the Democratic Party is about anger right now. Anger against corporations, against fossil fuel. Listen to Bernie yesterday, Sanders yesterday on Meet the Press. It was all anger. He was angry at Ed Rendell. He was angry at everybody. But I think Biden's going to have to grab that anger and turn it against Trump. It's going to be very patriotic, too. I got to say that again and again. Black support is a big thing with Biden. Support of African-American community leaders. I was with the ward leaders yesterday in Philly. I was actually standing with them in the crowd. He had a gospel chorus, came on and sang. The lead singer that did the Star Spangled Banner was an African-American woman. I think he's really trying to embrace the community and run as one of their champions. Yeah. I know he's a white guy, but I think he really feels that. I've talked to him. He wants to be a champion of the black community. Ironically, a 76-year-old white guy, but that's where he's comfortable.
Well, you know, Mika, that's why right now that's one of Mayor Pete's biggest challenges is the fact that Joe Biden right now is doing extraordinarily well among black voters. I want to talk to you, though, Mika, follow up on what Chris said about Dr. Biden, Jill Biden. One of the things that struck me in talking with her and you in Philadelphia was also what struck me, and I know Mike Barnacle can attest to this as well as anybody, just what a contrast they are to the Trumps and the Trump family, who seem to want to come off as some European plutocratic ruling family. Let me look at them. They really, that is their pose. I've got to say, with both Jill Biden and Joe Biden, they are about as normal and as Americana as there could be. I remember sitting on the back porch with Joe Biden in Wilmington talking when I was down there, and he had just finished doing Meet the Press. This must have been in 2009, 2010. And he looked around, and we were having this wonderful conversation, and there were Secret Service men around, and he pointed to them, and he said, "Look at them. Look at them. What are they doing?" And he said, "Could you imagine being so much of a loser that you would try to kill a vice president? I mean, come on, man." And but he was always making fun of himself, poking fun at himself, putting others at ease. They are, and I say this in the most complimentary way, in the age of insanity and craziness and hyperbole, they are about as normal as it gets. And you said that Jill Biden seemed, talking to her, because you've grown up around people affected by Washington, D.C. and the power, that it was as if she had never been to Washington before, that she was just a community college professor.
Yeah, no, it's actually stunning when you think about the lifetime in the Washington world that they have spent together, because he has served for decades, and he commuted back and forth, and that train trip there and back grounded him. They have stayed normal. They have stayed normal in a sea of insanity in these political times. And to get this, and Corinne, I have to appreciate this, Chris, David, Peter, they actually want to go back. Mm-hmm. You know, most people, and you can talk about the Obamas about this big time, they were so glad to be gone. Yeah. They were out of there. It is so insidious in some ways. It's so difficult. It is such a difficult life with people pulling at you and grabbing at you and getting under your skin and trying to, like, basically, you know, rip apart your world every single day in Washington. And yet the Bidens want to go back and serve this country. I think it says a lot.
It does say.
I wouldn't want to go back.
I totally agree with you. Look, I think I've said this on the show. I got to know both Vice President Biden and Dr. Biden when I worked in the Obama administration. I traveled with him a whole lot, and when we would go to Pennsylvania, he was really the third senator from Pennsylvania, and there he got a lot of love there. He gets a lot of love from states like that, and I have to tell you, those two are probably two of the most normal people that you would ever
just
meet.
Wouldn't imagine.
And just full of heart.
And yet, David Ignatius, and then I'll go to Peter, he's got foreign policy experience from those decades of service.
He has foreign policy experience. He's taken seriously. Sometimes he's serious to a fault, to be honest. The thing that I think is most interesting is that the fact that Biden has opened strong. You know, we all wondered, will he just kind of, you know, do nothing, and you'll have 24 candidates? And
that was very French of you.
Which is
but he's open strong, which means that anyone who beats Joe Biden in the Democratic field is going to be a really good candidate. So that's what we know, is that you know, we're going to have a strong leader, and that whoever beats him is going to show qualities that the voters really like and have that energy.
Mike Barnicle.
Peter Baker, as we just watched the vice president, as we talk about his wife, Jill Biden, they clearly are a relatable couple. Everyone who has ever encountered them knows that. But there's something else with the Bidens that they bring to the country that I'm wondering if the White House is cognizant of and thinks about and dwells upon quite a bit. And it is this. Both Bidens, but especially the more visible of the Bidens, the former vice president, the candidate himself, they understand loss. They understand grievances in a real way. They understand what it means to lose someone in your family to war or disease. They understand what it means to lose a job. They understand loss. Does the White House understand how deeply relatable that is to the country?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you know most about Joe Biden, right? He got to start in national politics at a time when he had the great tragedy in his family, his first wife, child killed. And I think that he then emerged again in a way in 2015 with the death of his son, Beau. And it's that authenticity that has been one of his strengths in national politics. At the same time, of course, you know, Joe Biden does not represent the future of the Democratic Party. And this, I think, is a challenge for him, is he going to rally a party that is increasingly younger, that is looking for something new? He appeals to the people who've been in Washington for decades. That's not necessarily where the party is going. Does he provide enough of a contrast to Donald Trump generationally and so forth? But at the moment, he's starting strong, and he's the person to beat.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.